Okay, okay. We're back week 2 on YouTube. Week 2 back to the podcast. How you doing? How you living? How was your week? How was the weekend in football? Did your team win? Did your team lose? Did your team look good? Did your team look bad? Whatever it was, I hope you're doing well today. Jackie Boy's got a sports show, and you were tuning into that sports show on YouTube, on Spotify, trying to push this out to more platforms, but I have to get technologically literate to do that. We're going to go over the football weekend. Going to dip into more sports when the World Series starts up, which is very soon, when the NBA season starts up, which is very soon, and maybe when hockey season starts up. We'll see. I'm trying to get literate in a new sport every year. Got more literate in basketball last year. Might gonna try hockey this year because Nashville Predator games are so fun. Such an unfortunate name. But let's get into it, right? Thursday night football. Let's get right into Thursday night football. The Eagles beating the Minnesota Vikings. And there's a couple things I got to say about this. Kirk Cousins showed up in primetime. Kirk Cousins showed up. Now, I believe he had a fumble, right? I don't know if he had an interception. I can't really remember. But other than that, he was great. He was awesome. He was not the reason they lost. The reason they lost was because of turnovers. That's what it comes down to. They turned the ball over way too much. That and the Eagles played annoying Madden kid football. You know that Madden kid where you go online trying to have a good time and the kid just spams the same 3-4 plays that you can't stop? And not only can you not stop, he goes for 4 or 5 yards of play so he can drain an entire quarter without you touching the football. So now you know you got to drain an entire quarter or there's no way you're going to lose and you don't play like that. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not a cheesy weirdo. That's how the Eagles played football. Run for 3 yards, run for 4 yards, QB sneak, right? Run for 5 yards, run for 6 yards, QB sneak. Wait. No, I mathed that completely wrong. Run for 12 yards. Pass for 5 yards, run for 3 yards, QB sneak. That was their entire game plan. It was so annoying, and it was so boring to watch. I like the Eagles. I don't know if they're the best team in the NFC this year. I mean, the past 2 weeks, they played okay against the Patriots, and the only reason they won this game was because of turnovers and they wouldn't give the ball back. And let me get this before Eagles fans get on me and tweet at me at JJester615 or get my comment sections on TikTok at JackieBoySports on TikTok. Let me get this perfectly clear. I can understand and appreciate the pure dominance of the Eagles' offensive line and of the Eagles' run game in order for them to pull off draining half the quarter and moving the ball that efficiently. But I can also look at you and say that is so boring and so cheesy to do. It's so boring and it's so cheesy. You can argue with a wall. I don't know if they're the best team in the NFC, but if they are and if they make the Super Bowl, that Super Bowl is going to suck. That Super Bowl is going to suck. Unless you get a team that is very good at defending the run like the Tennessee Titans, per se. I mean, they could make the Super Bowl. But even if that happens, they can't throw the ball. Or they can, but they've showed that it's not consistent, right? I don't know. I just don't want to watch boring football. I've had enough boring Super Bowls in my lifetime. I think there was 2 that were extremely boring. The Broncos and Seahawks and the Rams and Patriots. I don't need another one. Well, let's move on to college football. First game I want to talk about is what everybody's talking about. Colorado wins double overtime at almost 2 in the morning Central Time against Colorado State. There's a couple things I want to talk about. There's no way you talk shit like that and choke. I believe at one point in the game, Colorado State was up by 2 or 3 possessions, and that coach was talking so much shit. That team was talking so much shit when they walked out onto the field pregame, and to choke like that, disgusting. I also want to talk about the dirty play. Not just by Colorado State, because that's what everybody's talking about. Henry Blackburn's hit on Travis Hunter, obviously dirty, obviously disgusting. He should face some form of punishment because everybody with half a brain cell that also believes and genuinely gives, is empathetic towards players, understands that football isn't, let's go decapitate someone on the field. Let's go paralyze them for life. Let's go make sure that they don't remember the grandkids' names when they're older. They understand that isn't football anymore, right? It's a dirty play. Should get punished. He could have avoided it. I don't want to hear about momentum. I watched the play. He could have easily ran by him, but he lit him up. But Colorado also, nobody I see is talking much about Shedeur Sanders trying to poke dudes' eyes. Nobody's talking about that. And I don't want to hear like, oh, they were just letting him play dirty. They threw dude out. Last play for, it was either overtime or was the last play that Colorado had to tie up the game to go into overtime. Dude was thrown out for a late hit on Shedeur for targeting. So I don't want to hear that they were just letting him play dirty. And the last thing I want to talk about when it concerns Colorado, when it comes to Colorado, I'm glad Deion Sanders is bringing a lot of new eyes to college football because the way college football is talked about right now, I can tell there's a lot of new eyes on college football. There's a lot of new people watching it. And from what I hear, what he's doing in that community by just coaching the Colorado Buffaloes is amazing, right? The small businesses, the school itself, it's amazing. But one thing we're not going to do, I apologize for my dog barking. One thing we're not going to do is we're not going to give credit to Deion Sanders for stuff that has nothing to do with him. What am I talking about? Someone came up in Missouri's coach, I don't know his name, came out because his starting quarterback was booed on the field. All right, was booed on the field. I'm trying to come up with the name of the people they upset, and I can't, and that is stupid. That is stupid, but lost track. Missouri's quarterback got booed when he walked out onto the field by his school, right? And the Missouri coach went in the press conference and started defending his quarterback, saying it was disgusting for you to boo this guy. And everybody in the comments section of the video I watched was like, oh, Deion Sanders is really rubbing off on these coaches. Oh, Deion Sanders is bringing a new attitude. This isn't anything new. Coaches defending their players, coaches criticizing their school, coaches criticizing the NCAA, coaches speaking out is nothing new to college football. It didn't start with Deion Sanders. It started well before Deion Sanders was in college football. So what are we talking about? That, and I saw another video from this kid who was like, man, I'm so happy Deion Sanders is in the league because I'm tired of watching Alabama beat, University of Christian Martin by 67 points. Colorado is the only school playing schools close. Deion Sanders coaches the only team that plays schools close. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Deion Sanders is in the NCAA now, so blowout games just don't happen anymore. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? That is so stupid. That dude, and I went to his page, he just talks about political shit. Let's stick to political shit if you have no idea what you're talking about when you're talking about college football. What are you doing? Oh my God, I love Deion Sanders. I think he's stupidly overhated. When people talk about the antics off the field, I really have no idea what they're talking about. But giving Deion credit for shit that he has nothing to do with, nothing. His coaching style isn't new, right? His coaching style isn't new. The way he carries himself, it isn't new. He's just one of the biggest names that has ever entered coaching in college football. So just because of that, don't give him credit for shit that he shouldn't have credit for. You should give him a lot of credit for the way he's going to change college football in terms of how he rebuilt a dog shit Colorado team. Give him credit for giving hope to the Colorado school. Give him credit for what he's doing in the community. But don't give him credit for coaches' attitudes, because that's always been a thing. And don't give him credit for lack of blowouts, because A, blowouts are still happening, and B, there's still close college football games. There's close games every weekend. So what are you talking about? Oh. Now, moving on. Couple more games that happened over the weekend. Bama is dead. Alabama is dead, and I'm here for it. I am here for Alabama football being in the dirt. I love Nick Saban. I respect Nick Saban, but it's time. It's time. It's time to pack it up. You only beat the University of Southern Florida by 14 points. Your offense scored 17 points against the University of Southern Florida. I'm sure it's a great school with great people. I'm sure it's a great community. But it's not. What are we talking about? Hey, Nick Saban, Alabama. 2-3 years ago, even last year, you were beating that team 70-73. So what are we doing? Bama's over. It's done. Now, Nick Saban's never going to go away. Right? Nick Saban's never going to go away. Well, I guess one day he's going to eventually have to retire. But I don't think the Bama dynasty, quote unquote, is completely over. I'm never going to count out Nick Saban. But this year at least, everybody can celebrate Bama's downfall. And speaking of downfalls, oh my God, my nose is just getting stuff here. Speaking of downfalls, Georgia looks bad. Georgia doesn't look bad. Georgia looks bad for what Georgia should be. You know what I'm saying? That offense is so sputtery. I said this in the video I made about the NCAA Top 25 that came out this week. My boy Champ Pryor on TikTok, go give him a follow if you are on TikTok. Every time Georgia plays, he makes a video right after the game. And he talks about how sputtery the offense is, about how unimaginative the offense is, about how bad it can be at sometimes. Georgia is in serious trouble. But I think what's working for them is the SEC isn't strong this year. I mean, you think of the schools that you thought were going to be strong this year. LSU, the most competent opponent they faced was Florida State, and they got manhandled, right? Florida, they just beat Tennessee. Tennessee was stupidly overhyped, and that takes care of Tennessee too. Bama, we just talked about Bama, right? South Carolina, people thought were going to be a little dark horse. Mississippi State's a joke this year. Texas A&M was overhyped this year. The SEC is weak this year. It's a very easy path, the easiest path you will probably ever have in the SEC to get to the SEC championship, win the SEC championship, and everybody knows any other Power 5 conferences, their championship is not a guaranteed in the playoffs, but an SEC championship is a guaranteed in the playoffs. I think it's bullshit. Because Georgia's not going to be that great, and they're going to win the SEC championship. I mean, maybe LSU finds something, right? They looked good. They looked great this past weekend, but they really, I believe it was Mississippi State. You expect me to be impressed. You played a competent team in Florida State. You played a great team in Florida State and barely won. Or you didn't win. You got manhandled. Why did I say barely won? Oh, man. So, moving on. That brings me to, well, first off, let me say about the Tennessee-Florida game. If you listened to the podcast last week, if you've kept up with the podcast in the past, or if you follow me on Twitter or follow me on TikTok, you know, Tennessee guy. Right, Nashville Predators, unfortunate name. Tennessee Titans, Memphis Grizzlies, Tennessee Vols. And when the MLB finally brings a baseball team to Tennessee, if they ever bring a baseball team to Tennessee outside of the Nashville Sounds, I will be a fan of that baseball team. However, Tennessee, Josh Heupel, 9 seconds left in the Florida game. Florida has the ball. You're down by 2 possessions. It's over. It's over. Florida takes a knee. Josh Heupel calls a timeout. Why? Why does Josh Heupel call a timeout? Why did you do that? You look like a fucking brat. You look like a snotty-nosed child calling a timeout right there just so Florida runs another fucking play. The game's over. What are you doing? That was so fucking annoying. And the way the Vols have carried themselves the past 2 years, the Vols and the Vols fan base make me so ashamed to say I'm a Vols fan. So ashamed. Why is it that when Tennessee teams get good, right? The Vols got good. Cedric Tillman comes out and says, oh, Tennessee is officially wide receiver university. Just because Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt were drafted. By the way, second round. LSU had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson drafted in the first round. What the fuck are you talking? Also, they have Jarvis Landry. Also, they have Odell Beckham Jr. The best receiver to come out of Tennessee before Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt was Justin Hunter, and he was a fucking bust. We have that. We have Tennessee Vol fans just acting like they're the absolute shit now. Shit talking everybody. Verbally abusing everybody. Going completely unnecessary behavior. Right? And then I believe it was 3 years ago in Josh Heupel's first stint where we trashed the field because of a disappointing loss. Right? This fan base, and then Josh Heupel does this. Why did he do that? Why did he make himself look like such a bitch, dude? Titans get good. The Titans fan base doesn't know how to fucking act. Not only that, the Titans get good. We're riddled with injury bug. The Titans get good. I start getting a big head, and now I look like a moron on TikTok. Right? It's my fault. We have this fucking curse. The Nashville Predators went to the Stanley Cup. Next season, best record in the NHL. By far, President's Trophy winners, favored to go back to the Stanley Cup, and then shit the bed in the first round. Shit the bed. They play like they don't even know they're there. They play like they're still in their fucking dreams, brother. I hate that I had to be born in this state. I hate that I had to be born in this state. I would love to be born in this state, actually, if I wasn't a fucking sports fan. Because this fandom is so cursed. But the last thing I want to say about college football is the top 25. The NCAA really tries to look you in the face and say, oh yeah, we have a good reputation. We still have a good reputation. What are you talking about? You know, with all these transfer denials that happened, that were completely awful stories, making the NCAA look the absolute worst, they still want to come back and tell you that they have a good reputation. And then they put out their top 25 this week. And this isn't as serious as those transfer denials, but this just shows how biased, how inconsistent, and how stupid the NCAA is. Ohio State beats Indiana by 20 points. Right? 23-3 a couple weeks ago. And they drop from number 3 to number 5. Right? You want to say the offense played bad? Right? You want to say Ohio State should have dominated that game? Sure. Georgia plays Carolina. In Georgia, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They play South Carolina in Georgia, only win by 10 points, and don't move. Why do they not move? The only explanation I've heard as to why they didn't move was, they're back-to-back champs. Who gives a fuck? The list is about this year, not last year, and that would be valid for like the Chiefs this year, right? They won the Super Bowl. They kept around basically the same team, outside of like Chris Jones sitting out, and outside of like Juju, right? Basically the same team, and whatever. Georgia is not the same team. They lost so many players in the draft, including their quarterback, including 2 of their best defensive players. So what sense does it make that you automatically assume, oh yeah, this is the same Georgia team? What are you talking about? It's so stupid how the SEC is put on this fucking pedestal, Right? I get it. They've been the best conference in college football, but right now, take those glasses off. The SEC is not good this year. It's not. There's one team that could maybe compete for the national title, and it's Georgia. Sure, but you want to say that excuse is fucking stupid, and then you want to say, well, Ohio State didn't look that great. Neither did Georgia. Georgia's offense is so inconsistent and sputtery. So why is that a down for Ohio State and some weird excuse as to not move Georgia? And then you get further down the list, and Florida State moves only one position for barely beating Boston College. When Boston College barely beat Holy Cross and lost to Northern Illinois, who just got blew out by fucking Nebraska. This list is inconsistent. It's so biased. It's so stupid. It's really time that we see the NCAA for what it is, a bunch of greedy fucks who have clear biases, and that is affecting the ability for schools to make the money they should be making and compete for championships. You know how much it took for Cincinnati to get into college football playoffs? They were undefeated, they had 2 ranked wins, and they looked really good in all their wins. And it took the rest of college football being so bad where the committee was like, fine, we'll put them at 4. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Blow the thing up. Redo. If you want to go to 2 super conferences and it's ran by a conglomerate of those 2, I'm completely fine with it. I'm fine with whatever is not the NCAA. From the way they treat the transfer portal, from the way that they refuse to pay athletes, and from how they run the national championship and the college football playoffs, it's awful. It's awful. And I think the top 25 is a good, interesting system. But when it's so inconsistent and biased, it just turns into a stupid system. Let's move on to the NFL. Let's try to get some positive vibes back in here. And I'll skip a couple because I'm going over my little time limit. And I got to take my lady to work soon. Titans won. Hallelujah. Everybody dragging Ryan Tannehill, saying he was a bad quarterback, even though it's week 1, and week 1 isn't real, like I told y'all last week, especially now since starters don't play the preseason. Week 1 is not real. I'm going to try to stop slapping the desk. Week 1 isn't real. I don't expect Ryan Tannehill to play that good a lot because the Chargers' defense really isn't that great. And even then, the Titans' offense still... A couple things I can say. Tim Kelly is such an upgrade over Todd Downing. I'm so happy with that. I'm happy with how Tajay is playing. Dylan Radunz, I know y'all don't know these names or care, but I'm going through this because I'm a Titans fan. Dylan Radunz should replace Andre Dillard, in my opinion. The starting lineup for the offensive line should be Dylan Radunz. I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce his name or whatever. Peter Skronsky, Aaron Brewer, Daniel Brunskill, and Chris Hubbard. Chris Hubbard is playing phenomenal as a right tackle. NPF played fine last year. Chris Hubbard is playing better right now. If NBF comes back, he's going to have to earn that spot. I'm glad they're getting the ball to Chig more. In terms of the defense, I really hope we can clean up our DB play. I really hope we... McCreary played great. Sean Murphy-Bunting had that very good pass deflection. KB was playing great. We really missed Amani. Our linebackers played fine, and our D-line played phenomenal. But yeah, that's the Titans. A couple more things I want to touch on. Anthony Richardson looks great. I mean, everybody was expecting him to not be good this year. And yeah, he has some things to clean up, but everybody was expecting like a Josh Allen rookie season or how Lamar Jackson looked in his first couple games. And honestly, he looks so much better than they did. And that scares me. Because if Anthony Richardson is really good, that sucks for the AFC South. That sucks. Because the Colts are such a well-built team. Like, people were calling for Chris Broussard? Is that dude's name? The GM for the Colts? They were calling for his head just because he couldn't find a quarterback, but it's so hard to find a quarterback. It's so hard to find it. I know there's a plethora of QB talent now, but it's still really, really hard to find a quarterback. The 49ers can't find a great quarterback. Don't know about Brock Purdy just yet. Let's chill out on that. But the Colts are built very, very well. The offensive line is good. They have a solid enough receiving core. Who knows what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. And their defense is good enough. So if Anthony Richardson turns out to be very, very good, that really sucks. That really sucks, brother. Moving on to the Giants. The Giants are bad. The Giants are bad. You may say, Jack, they came back. It was against the Cardinals. They should have been down in the first place. Let's keep it 1,000. The reason they came back was because it was the Cardinals. It's a tanking Cardinals team, right? I love Josh Dobbs going off as much as the next Tennessee fan. But why is Josh Dobbs going off on you? Jack, it was only in the first half. I know. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. Josh Dobbs goes off in a half against you. Josh Dobbs went off. The Giants are bad. I fear for the Giants. And Saquon's out. Next, why is everybody surprised that Matthew Stafford is good? Like, Matthew Stafford made a few bad plays this past Sunday, but I was saying this all offseason. When everybody was talking about the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, Matthew Stafford was not mentioned. Why? Why was because he missed a year? That's so stupid. And what's funny to me was Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl and now is all of a sudden a top 5 quarterback in the league that misses the season and he's not even in the top 10. What are we talking about? Well, he didn't miss the entire season, but missed most of the season, and now he's not a top 10 quarterback? And people watch him be Matthew Stafford this season, and everybody's like, what? What? Yeah, he's Matthew Stafford. What are we talking about? Russ for the Denver Broncos. Is Russ okay? Is Russ bad? There's one throw that sticks out to me. 3rd and 9. Jerry Jeudy is wide open for a first down, and he just underthrows him. He underthrows him so bad. I hate to say it, Russ is washed. He's washed. And I said it last week. I guess Sean Payton makes the Broncos a little bit better. A little bit better. And I get that they lost, I think, 2 receivers in the offseason to injury. So that's probably affecting the offense. But Russ just doesn't look good. He doesn't. And the last thing I want to say about Sunday is Sunday Night Football, Dolphins, Patriots, Cole Strong, the big boy, right? Am I tripping? That's crazy, though. It was 2 nights ago. The timeline is just merging in my brain. Yeah, Dolphins and Patriots, Sunday Night Football. Cole Strong, one for the big boys. He didn't get it, but phenomenal run for the big boys. Shout out Cole Strong. But I want to say that Tua is phenomenal. Tua Tagovailoa is a phenomenal quarterback. If he stays healthy, he's winning MVP this season. If that team stays healthy, they're winning the East. And I know what you want to say. He's a product of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, but you aren't watching. If you think that's the case with Tua Tagovailoa, that he's only good because of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you're not watching him. The throws he is making is incredible. Right before half, that throw in like the corner, like right before the pylon at like the 1 or 2 yard line, where it was just beautiful. You could have not placed that ball better. It was reminiscent of the Tyreek Hill end zone catch last week, where you're like, you cannot place that ball better. Tua is a phenomenal quarterback, and it's time to give him his flowers. He is stupid accurate. He's got good enough arm strength. He's mobile enough. He's got to work on not getting hurt. And I really hope he doesn't get hit in the head again, because the Dolphins are going to be so good if Tua stays healthy, if that team stays healthy. And they should win the East. They should. The Jets are out because they don't have a quarterback, right? I don't know if they're going to bail on Zach Wilson. If they do, they have a shot if they go with Jacoby Brissett, like I was talking about last weekend or last week. But the Jets are out. The Patriots look good enough to stay in games, but not good enough to beat good teams, which is going to bop them out. And the Bills, I don't trust the Bills. I don't trust the Bills. And that's not just because they looked bad against the Jets, which they didn't look bad, but the past couple seasons with this quote-unquote Super Bowl team they had, it felt like they played their Super Bowl against the Chiefs in that overtime matchup in the playoffs when the Bengals and Rams Super Bowl year. It felt like that was their Super Bowl, and they've been on a Super Bowl slump since then because they haven't looked the same. They're not as dominant. Josh Allen just is slowly creeping towards overrated. I know he had a phenomenal game this past weekend, but he's still slowly moving towards stupidly overrated. Stephon Diggs is just getting older. That defense is just getting older. Their offensive line is okay. And maybe James Cook is finally bringing a run game, but I think it's too late. It's too late. I think the Dolphins are just better right now. The Dolphins are a better football team than the Buffalo Bills. They're better coached. They got a better receiving core. Honestly, they probably have a better defense. That might be a little wild. I'm just saying the Dolphins should win the East. The final couple points I want to touch on is I don't really want to touch the Steelers and Browns game. Two of the things I loved about last night. Recording this on Tuesday, it's coming out on Wednesday. Two of the things I absolutely loved last night. Trevor Penning getting absolutely torched was very fun to watch. And then Deshaun Watson playing like shit and getting thrown around by the Steelers defensive line. You got to love watching that. But the one thing I want to say regarding the Saints-Panthers game, the Falcons are winning the South, and they're winning it by far. The Buccaneers might do a little thing with Baker. I don't think they're good enough. I think they're going to lose to the Falcons. It's just the Falcons have an easy schedule, like easy enough schedule to where they can get 10 wins, 10, 11 wins. I mean, they just beat a Packers team, and the Packers aren't bad, right? The Packers could win their division. And I don't trust Derek Carr and the Saints. I just don't. The Panthers are going to be awful this year. And the Bucs might be a little overhyped after two fairly easy games. Right? They played close, but it was fairly easy games in the Vikings. And I forgot who they played last week. God, the timeline. I really need to do refreshers. I'm going to start doing that next week. I'm going to do refreshers, write down stats, do better research for this podcast because I'm tired of doing that. But the Falcons are going to win the NFC South. The Falcons are going to be in the playoffs. And honestly, no. They're not going to win. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they might win a playoff game. The Falcons are good this year. But that's all I got to say. I hope you all have a good week. Rate the show where you can. Leave a comment. Leave a like on YouTube. Love doing the videos now. I'm sorry for my energy. I'm feeling a little sick, a little tired. Time crunch a little bit, but we're rocking out. Follow me on Twitter at jjester615. Follow me on TikTok, JackieBoySports. Email me. Say you love the show. Say you hate the show. Give suggestions. Give me questions to answer. Whatever you want to do. OldJackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. Y'all have a good day, afternoon, night, good week. I will see y'all next week. And if you want my predictions for the weekend, last thing, always on my TikTok, always giving predictions on my TikTok. Might do that here, might move to 2 shows a week. We'll see. Take care.